Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 6 of our EdTech training series. Today, we're going to look primarily at Google Calendar, but we'll also talk about Google Tasks and Google Keep just a little bit. Now, Google Calendar is one of the foundational G Suite tools that you need to learn. I'd say Google Drive is number 1, and Google Calendar would be about a number 2 or a number 3, along with Gmail. Those are the top 3. And if you could really understand how to use those 3 very well, all the other G Suite tools are just gravy on top. It's just going to become a lot easier for you to navigate all of the tools because they're similar in their structure. As we've already talked about, a lot of these tools are built the same way. So if you go to Calendar, Google Calendar, again, at this point you should know there's many ways that you can get there. Just to recap and test your own knowledge, way number 1 you can get there is if you're on a Google page like this or on a web page and you go to the Google waffle in the upper right hand corner and click on that, you should be able to find Calendar somewhere in here. And remember, these are draggable, so you could customize this however you want it. I have my most oftenly used items here. So you can get there that way. You should also know that you can just type for it, but instead of typing in Google Calendar and searching through Google, which you can do, you can just type in calendar.google.com, right? And it will bring you to a page that looks like this. It'll be on the current month, August, or whenever you're watching this. Now, I'm going to show you the structure of it, and I'm just going to walk you through it. So if at any point in this video, it seems like you know all this, you have the basics, just fast forward, speed it up, make the playback speed up to 2 so that I speak really fast, or just skip ahead to whatever will work for you. Hopefully you'll come out with some new tips. If you're brand new, this is going to be great for you. If you've used this every once in a while, you're going to understand the basics, but you're also going to be able to go to the next level. Now, as you can see, it is a pretty basic view. It's just a calendar. I'm sure if you use iCalendar or something like that, it is pretty similar. Now, just like all other Google tools, it's set up identically. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it tells you what program you're in. If you look in the right-hand corner, you still have your account. You have the Google Waffle. The only difference here is you can change which type of view you want in your calendar. If you want to do a daily view, you can hit day, and it'll only show your day. If you want to change it to be a yearly view, you can certainly do that. I tend to like either the week or the month view. I'm going to go back to month. But then you also have the search bar, which you can search for specific events, just like you can in other programs as well that we talked about. And the gear icon is always the settings menu. So if you click on that, you have a few different options here, but settings is the number 1 thing. And you could just play around with this and take a look. You could change the time zone. You can change how you do different things within Google Calendar, whether or not you want notifications, you don't want notifications, what's normally going to come out for you. Even if you want to start the week on Monday, on Saturday or Sunday, you could change that. I start my week on Monday. You could do custom view, 5 days, weeks, whatever it wants to be. So I'm going to do 5 days. And the reason why I start mine on Monday is that usually corresponds with the school week, right? We don't have school on Saturday and Sunday, so I'd rather see Monday to Sunday rather than start on a Sunday. Now, I'm in August, so you don't see many items right here, but whenever you have something that's due or you have something scheduled, it will look like it does here for August 7th, and you'll notice a couple things here. You'll notice it's highlighted in a specific color, so it really pops out for me, but you'll also notice that these things look familiar, and that's because that's the assignment and due date for our Google Classroom, for our training class, which you can see right in here. Right? We have something due for that day. And so if I go back into my calendar, you'll see there's a question due and there's an assignment. And if I were to click on it, it will pull up the details. Now, I've told you guys before that Google Classroom and Google Calendar work hand in hand. You are automatically creating Google Calendar items and events when you create a Google Classroom. So for those of you in middle school and high school who will be using Google Classroom, this is awesome for you. Now, what do you get from this? Well, in the left-hand corner, you can see, for me, look at all the calendars that I have. And the first thing that you see on the left-hand corner is the actual monthly view. If you scroll down, you'll see my calendars. These are calendars that you are the creator of and you have editing access to. You'll always have your own based on your account, so it'll be your name. And for me, all my other calendars are Google Classroom calendars. Now, you could see that I have a lot, and there's a reason for that. I was bad, and I did not delete these calendars yet, but I can very easily. Now, some of you might also be noticing some of these are checked off, some of them are not. The check just means they can be visible on your monthly view. So if I wanted to find our Google Calendar that was created for me through Google Classroom for our Google training class, I would just have to scroll down until I see the Google training class, and I see it here, and it's in a darker blue. And oh wait, aren't all the posts here for August 7th of those due dates also in that color? Yeah, so obviously you could see that it corresponds by the color. Now, look what happens when I uncheck it. If I uncheck it, it has now disappeared from August 7th. It is no longer there. If I go and check it again, now it's there. So this is helpful because if you have a lot of calendars like I do, and you don't want to see them all at one point, you could just uncheck some of them. So if I wanted to as well, you can see that there is a CCS Coffee Fellowship. That's part of the CCS calendar. If I scroll down and I found where that calendar is, I could uncheck it. And for me, it's listed in other calendars because I don't own the Calvary Christian School calendar. I subscribe to it and it automatically puts it in for me. But I can uncheck that, and now it has disappeared from that August 9th time slot, right? And I could check it again and put it up there, but it's just helpful because in the middle of a school year, it gets crazy with how many events you might have, especially if you have multiple calendars, if you have multiple classes. And to show you, let me just backtrack a couple months. As you can see in July, there's other assignments here. Some of them are all done with and we're past, so that's why you don't see it in bold. It's not as lively and there's not colors, but you can see a lot of things labeled with the assignments, right? And the time frame in which it was due. And that's because it's based on the Google Classroom. So if I go to July 17th, we can see, I had an assignment that day that I had posted, and it has the details. And what's this link though? Well, the great thing about Google Calendar and Classroom working together is it will pull all the information from Google Classroom, and it also inserts the link. So if I were to click on this link, it's going to bring me to that specific page and that specific announcement, right? Google Group Post. Well, what was it? Google Group Post 004. It was an assignment, right? So this is really helpful because it lets you see your assignments that you're creating for your Google Classrooms, but it also allows the students to do the same because the students with their CCS emails have access to Google Calendar. So they can see the same thing. So they don't have to only go to Google Classroom in order to find everything. If they really wanted to, they could just go to Google Calendar. They'll see, on July 17th, I have an assignment due. Let me click on it for more details. And if they wanted to submit it or go straight to Google Classroom, all they have to do is click on the link and it will bring them there. So it is really a game changer. And it is an underutilized tool. I will tell you right now, there are not many students, I would say maybe 1%, that actually use Google Calendar. But it's very helpful, especially if they have a smartphone, because they can put Google Calendar as an app on their phone, which means they'll get notifications and reminders on their phone when they have an event that is due. And these events are going to be your homework that you post, right? Just like I go to August 7th, you guys have these assignments due. And if you're a student, you'll see this in your Google Calendar as well, since you're in this class with me. And if you were to click on it, it will bring up the details and it will give you a link, and you could just click that link to go there. So it is very helpful, and that's why I really love the Google Classroom and Google Calendar syncing together. Now, for those of you that are teachers that will not use Google Classroom, this is still going to be helpful for you. Now, it's not going to be as cool as the Google Classroom integration, but let's say you're an elementary school teacher, or you're a teacher that just doesn't want to use Google Classroom. Maybe you're not. Now, you could still put your homework up here. And this was a question that somebody had actually posed to me in Google Classroom. I think it was Kristen, so thanks for the question. And I was asked, can you create a calendar apart from Google Classroom and share it with others? And the answer is yes, you can. Because remember, all these, yes, most of these are Google Classroom calendars, but if I wanted to, I could create one that is completely my own. It has nothing to do with Google Classroom, and I'll show you how to do that. So all you need to do is click on the gear icon in the right-hand corner. That'll bring up your settings, and you want to click on settings. And we'll go back to all these different options. Now, on the left-hand side, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see an option to add calendar. Now, I'm going to walk you through how to add your own calendar, but also how to add other people's. Now, if I go ahead and click on that and I click down, there's some different options here. Right? You could subscribe to a calendar. That's usually subscribing to somebody else's calendar, and I'm going to show you what that means in a moment. You can create a new calendar, which means you're the one doing the creating. You're the owner of it. That's usually what you're going to do. You can browse calendars of interest. That means if it's a work calendar, that's like for everybody. If you find a calendar online of maybe the NFL schedule or something like that, normally you can subscribe to it and it'll embed it into your own Google Calendar. Or you could grab a URL. That's if somebody actually created a calendar and posted online for people to subscribe to. You could technically just grab the URL and put it in that way. So let's start with browsing calendars of interest. If I click on that, you'll see that there's some already set calendars of interest, like holidays. Do I want to subscribe to Christian holidays? Do I want to subscribe to Jewish holidays? And if I do, it'll say calendar added at the bottom, and that means when I go back to my calendar, it will be there. But let me uncheck those. Now, they also give you sports calendars, from baseball, Major League, all of that, because Google works very well and they have all of that. So you will see, I'm going to click on football and I'm going to say I want the National Football League schedule, and I really am just a Giants fan. So I want to scroll down, find the New York Giants. I'm going to check that box for New York Giants, and now it says calendar added. Now, if I go back to my calendar now, there's nothing really in August, but if I scroll down on the left-hand side and I go to other calendars, because this is other calendars here, there is one now that's now called New York Giants. Now let's go to September when football starts to see if there's games listed. So if I go, boom, the calendar is right there for me. It's telling me that the first game is actually a Monday night game. It looks like September 14th, Monday night, Steelers at Giants. If I click on that, it's just public, and it's telling me what game time, what the game time is. I'm seeing that Sunday, September 20th, Giants at Bears, 49ers at Giants, and it goes down the list. So that's actually really helpful, especially if you're a sports fan, because now you don't have to Google search for those time slots anymore. It's there for you, and you could do that with any sports. That's a fun little thing to do, but you can do others as well. So let's go back to our settings. So I'm going to click on the gear icon, go there. I'm going to hit add calendar. I'm going to go back to browse calendars of interest, and I'm going to scroll down, see what else they have. Other phases of the moon. So these are just ones that you can add yourself, that they give for you. So if you're a sports fan or you want specific holidays, feel free to browse those and embed them into your calendar. Now, the other thing that you can do is subscribe to a calendar, and that's the first option under Add a Calendar. Now, subscribe to a calendar, if you click in there, it will normally give you some email addresses of most likely your coworkers, and it depends on other people's settings. So if you wanted to add another person's calendar because sometimes you want to know, is that person free or not, you can do that. Now, that's only if they are visible. It's possible that they have their settings to where they're not visible. So I'm going to go ahead and add Dan Simon. And as you can see, there's really not much that I can change because it's his calendar, right? It tells me who the owner of the calendar is. Permission settings, anyone can see nothing. I'm not going to be able to actually see any of his events. It's just going to show that he's busy that day. And now this is also presupposing that he is using Google Calendar religiously, that he's using this for all of his appointments. I don't know if he is or not, but his calendar is allowed to be integrated, as are some others, probably even mine, probably even yours, the way that our settings are set up. And I can go ahead and now go back to my calendar, and if I go back to August, you'll see now I have a lot of options up here that say 9 a.m. busy, 7:30 a.m. busy, 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 busy. What is all that? Well, if I scroll down on left-hand side and I look at my other, that's the color for Dan Simon. And if I click on any one of those, let's go August 11th. I click on that. It just says busy Dan Simon, and it says 9 to 10. But it's private. It's locked. I can't see anything else. So it's not like I can see who he has a meeting with. It's not like I can see what he's even doing. All I know is that he has a time slot on that day that is absolutely blocked off, and that he is not available. So this is helpful because if I wanted to invite him into a virtual meet, I would know, okay, he's definitely not going to be free on these days. Now, again, this really only works adding another person's calendar if they are using Google Calendar a lot. Now, these could just be reoccurring events that he has in. I don't know. But the point is, when you subscribe to somebody else's calendar, if they already have something in there, an event that they're going to, anything, for any one of their calendars, it's going to list it as being busy, which just tells somebody else, hey, can't meet at this time. Now, this is helpful in terms of your own calendar because let's say you wanted parents and students to know that you were busy on a certain day and a certain time slot and that you can't really be reached. You could put that in as your calendar if they were to add it. Now, truth be told, for us, I don't think this is particularly helpful. I don't think it's the best feature. I don't think it's particularly useful for us, especially if a lot of people are not using Google Calendar religiously, at least not yet. So what I'm going to do is I want to get Dan's calendar out of here. I don't want to see all the 9 a.m. busies because it's not relevant for me, and it doesn't really matter because, especially in August, I don't need to reach out to him as much. So I'm going to go on the left-hand side, and I'm going to uncheck it. Now, that takes it away to where I can't see it anymore, right? If I check it, it's there. If I uncheck it, it's not. Check it, it's there. Uncheck it, not. Now, what if I want to remove it altogether? Because maybe I want to take it out of this left-hand side. I could just hit the X, which is unsubscribe from Daniel Simon. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. Now it's removed. The hiking, I don't even know how this is in there. I don't know what the hiking calendar is. Maybe I went hiking one day and I put it in there by accident. I'm going to unsubscribe from hiking, and I'm going to remove it. Everything else I'm going to leave for now. So that is another option that you can do. Now I'm going to go back into the settings, right, the gear icon, and I'm going to show you the last thing for adding a calendar, and this is the one that is more useful for all of you, and it is creating your own new calendar. So go ahead, hit add calendar, create new calendar, and now you can put in a name. So I'm going to pretend like I am a third grade teacher. So I teach third grade, and I'm not using Google Classroom for my assignments. Maybe I'm creating a Google site and I'm putting videos up there, I'm putting announcements up there, but I also want to be able to have a calendar for homework. So I'm going to put down third grade class homework, and that's going to be my name. I could add a description, but one other little tip that I'll give is remember when I discussed Google Drive and how you can use emojis to help differentiate your calendar a little bit, if you're going to have a lot of different calendars, you could do the same thing in here. Right, so in Google Drive, I taught you can use emojis by going to the emoji keyboard, by just copy and pasting any one of them and putting them in for a folder. Here you could do the same thing. Again, I have an add-on that's actually called Emoji Keyboard, so I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go ahead and put a dog face there. So now I have a dog face for third grade class homework. And for the description, I'm going to put down, this is the calendar for all of our homework. Time zone is Eastern. I'm the owner. I'm going to go ahead and create calendar. So down at the bottom, it's telling me it's in progress, and now it's saying it's successfully created. So now I'm going to get out of settings, and I'm going to go to the left-hand side, and notice the emoji really helped because right away my eyes go to it. I can tell that I have an emoji here, and I can see third grade classroom. Now, it's there, but what about assignments? What about actually adding the homework? How do you do that? How do you make sure that people can see it? You have a couple different ways. So I'm in August here. You can hit the plus button in the left-hand corner that says create, and it'll bring up your standard create an event, or create a task, or even create an appointment slot, or list that you're out of the office. Right? Which is helpful because, again, if somebody else is downloading your calendar, they'll tell that you are not available. But for us, I'm going to put it down as an event because it is going to be a homework event, right? So I'm going to say math homework 3, I'll go 1.1. Let's make it simple. 1.1. The date is right. We're going to be right here, and you can even say if it repeats or not. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is going to be due. I'm going to click on that, and let's say it's going to be due August 11th, and the time frame, it can be due 12 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Basically, at any point. If you want to make things simple and not have, you could just click the all day button right there. That's what I should have done. And I'm going to say it does not repeat. Now I'm going to click on that though, because if you're creating something that is going to repeat often, let's say that you have a current event due every Friday or every Monday, you might want to just say current event homework assignment and have it repeat every weekday. Maybe have it repeat weekly on Tuesday or whenever you're going to make it, right? So mine is a does not repeat. It's one homework assignment. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and look at the other options. I could add guests. In this case, it doesn't seem relevant for a homework assignment. If I click on find a time, that's just finding a time on that day that's open, but obviously I don't need to do that. I could add video conferencing in. Now, if we did virtual schooling, this might actually be relevant because if I go ahead and click this, add Google Meet conferencing, it's going to have a link. And maybe I have a specific time open for my students to then click on their Google Calendar, see that they have homework due, and if they have a question, maybe they're going to click on that link. For me, though, I'm just going to exit out of that. You could add a location if you want. You could add a description. So maybe I'm going to say, make sure you do all the odd numbers 1 to 20. Now, another cool feature is you can add attachments. So if you wanted to and you have the math homework, you can click add attachments and you can go into your Google Drive and you could add whatever attachment you have. And that way, when they go into their Google Calendar, they're going to see that they have this assignment to do. Now, what's very important is by default, it's going to add it to your own personal name calendar. And you'll see the little calendar logo here, and it says my name. You want to click that because it's a drop down, and all of your calendars will appear, all of your active ones. Obviously, I have a lot. I have to do some spring cleaning here. But up at the top, I see my third grade class homework. So I'm going to click on that. And again, the emoji really helped. I'm going to click on that. And underneath that, the option, obviously, you could either say that you're busy at that time or that you're free. It's homework. It doesn't matter. It's not an event for you. Default visibility. That's if people can see it or not. So I'm going to click down on that and I'm going to say it is public, right? That means anybody can see it. And if you ever want to learn more about options like that, if there's a question mark, you can hover over it or click on it and it'll tell you. So this is saying anyone can see this event's details, including the description and names of attachments. If you are going to make a homework calendar, I strongly advise you to do that and make it public because you want it easily searchable by parents. So I'm going to leave it as public, and you could add a notification if you want to. Doesn't matter. That would be more for you or anybody that subscribes to the calendar. Now, you can save it or you can hit more options. Let's just take a look at what more options has for us. So I'm clicking more options and it'll bring up the hub again, a little bit easier to see. Now on the right hand side, the guests that I can add to that, maybe I'm adding my students, maybe I'm adding my students' parents. I don't think it's necessary. And then there's guest permissions. Do guests have the ability to invite others, see a guest list, modify event? In this case, it doesn't matter because I'm not adding any guests. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And now it's going to be there, math homework. And I don't really like that it's gray. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color, make it something a little bit more easy to see. And so now I have it as pink. Now, question is, who can see it though? Who's on this calendar? Right? That is a good question. Now, the way that you can check that is when you're on the left-hand side and you see all your calendars here, hover over it, and on the right, you'll see a little options button, which is three little dots. Click on that, and you can change the color this way. You can display just this calendar. You could hide it from the list, or you could hit settings and sharing. So I'm going to go ahead and hit settings and sharing, and I'm now going to see what all the options are here. And if I scroll down, access permissions. Make available for Calvary Christian School. That's by default, which means if you guys were to search for this, you'd be able to find it. But if parents without a CCS email were to search for it, they wouldn't be able to find it. So I'm going to hit make available to public. Now it gives you a warning. Making your calendar public will make all events visible to the world, including via Google search. Are you sure? Yes. There's nothing that can really happen here for the people viewing it. Now, you can give them more directions here by this drop down. I'm going to click on it. You can say see only free busy, hide the details, or see all event details. For a homework calendar, I want them to see all event details. Why? Well, because the event details are going to be the homework assignment. It's going to be the attachment. It's going to be the instructions. It might be the encouragement. Now, what's really helpful about this is you can share it with specific people, or underneath the access permissions, you see a button that says Get Shareable Link. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and now it gives me a link, right? And with this link, only people you allow can access your calendar. But remember, we're allowing the public. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link, and I'm going to open up a browser from my personal Gmail account, and I'm going to paste the link right in there. And you're going to see it's going to bring up the calendar, and it's right away going to ask me if I want to add this calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, I want to add this calendar to my own Gmail. Now, what's going to be helpful about that is now on the left-hand side, it's added as one of my other calendars, because remember, this is my personal account now. And if I go to the monthly view, because it's in daily, I can now see that I have an event called Math Homework 1.1 due on Tuesday, August 11th. And if I click on that, I can see the instructions. Make sure you do all the odd numbers. It's created by my teacher, in this case me, and that it's open to the public. And that's what I can see. And if there was an attachment, I can see that. If I wanted to, I could email all the guests. So if I click that, I'd have to send specific emails because there are no guests. The three dots are options. I could copy it to a different calendar, do whatever I want here. But again, this would be how a parent would open it. Now, yes, it is helpful if a parent has a Gmail account. And I really do strongly suggest we encourage our parents to get a Gmail account since all of their students have Gmail accounts. I really do think that is easier for everybody. Plus, they're free, so it's not harming anybody. It makes their interaction with the teacher a little bit easier and all of that. But with that being said, there are ways in which you can see it without a Gmail account. You just have to try putting the link in there. You wouldn't be able to add it to a calendar, but you should be able to see the calendar, or they may prompt you to get an account. And to show you kind of what that'll look like, I'm going to go to Incognito Mode, Control-Shift-N. And what this is it's just basically kicking me out of all accounts, and it's just keeping my data safe. So this logs me out of anything. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that link now in the search bar and see what happens with the calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And as you can see, it's asking me to sign into Google Calendar. So if your parents do not have a Google Calendar and they do not have a Gmail account, they won't be able to see your calendar this way. So that is something important to make note of. With that in mind, I am going to show you a different way of showing your calendar to people through appointment slots. But just note, if you create a calendar and you have access to the public to view like I did, and you get a shareable link, just like in other Google programs that we've covered, you're going to need a Google account. It does make things easier. So if you're an elementary school teacher, you're not using Google Classroom, and you want to make a homework calendar like this, I would suggest that you at least encourage and tell your parents that if they have a Gmail account, it makes things a little bit easier because they could add the homework calendars to their own calendar and they could get notifications and all of that. But scrolling down a little bit more into the settings, you could add the event notifications. You can scroll down for other notifications if something's changed or canceled, if people are going to be notified, or down at the bottom, integrate calendar. Now, this is really more so for people without Google accounts. Again, I think Google accounts are better, but if you wanted to get a public view of this calendar for your parents, this is where you're going to be. So there's the public URL to this calendar. This is how you can access it from a web browser. So now let me copy this version, and I'm going to go back into incognito mode. I'm going to pretend like I'm a parent, doesn't have a Google account, but I've been given this link. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it, hit enter, and as you can see, it shows up here, 3rd grade class homework. Now it does look different, but that's because I don't have a Google account right now. I'm pretending I'm Joe Schmo parent, but notice I do see this one event. And if you had a bunch more listed, I'd see all of those events. And if I click on it, I can still see all of the details. So yes, you can still share your calendar with parents. Again, it's much easier with a Google account, but rest assured they can still see it. Now, if you scroll down even more, let's say you wanted to send it to somebody that has iCalendar for like Apple, there is even specific links for that. At any point, you could also unsubscribe or delete the calendar as well. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to go back into it. And now here's another way that you can create an event. So let's say I'm still this 3rd grade teacher and I want to add a reoccurring homework assignment on Fridays, and I want it reoccurring. It's going to be a current event. I can go to the left-hand side and hit the plus sign for create. I could add the title, do all that. But I could also just start it and originate it right here. So I'm just going to click on Friday the 14th. I'm going to double click. Notice what happened there. If I single click, it will bring this up. If I double click, it's going to bring this up. All right, so I'm going to back out of this. I'm just going to single click. And it's going to tell me to add a title name. I'm saying current events, 3rd graders. It's an event. I am going to say that it is going to repeat. So yes, it's going to start Friday the 14th. But I'm going to say repeats weekly on Friday. And I don't need a time. I don't need video conferencing. But remember, I do want to change it from the default calendar So I'm going to click on this, click on third grade class homework, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now notice it automatically created a reoccurring event through August on Friday for current events. Still going in September, October, November. It's going throughout. It won't stop. Now there is a way to edit that. So if I go back in and I were to edit the event and I try to look, it's weekly on Friday. You can do custom, and you can say repeat every week on Friday. Ends on, let's say I want it to end after the first marking period. Let's just pretend the first marking period ends on November 27th. And I'm going to go ahead and hit done. And then I'm going to save it. This and following events, because I'm editing one, so it's asking me, do you want to edit all the other ones? Yes, I want to edit this one and the following events. And now, if I scroll through August, September, October, November, notice it ended on the 27th. If I go into December, there's no more. So you can add reoccurring events. Now, to show you what this looks like on the parent side of things, if they don't have a Gmail, if you're just giving them access to the online version, I'm going to go ahead and go incognito again. I still have this pasted for this calendar. I'm going to hit enter. Now look, there's the math homework, but there's also the current event homework for Fridays. So imagine this. This is very helpful. Google Classroom helps, but you don't need Google Classroom to create your homework assignments this way. But let's take it a step further as well. Let me actually show you. If I go in to this event, I want to edit it. So all I have to do is click on one of these. I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to edit this event here. Let's say I want to add more description. These current events are worth 20 points each. Remember that the first paragraph is summary and second is opinion, right? Just some reminder there. There is a button to add attachment. It's always the paperclip. It's the paperclip in Gmail, the vertical paperclip, I should say. The horizontal paperclip looking thing is insert link. The vertical is add attachment. I'm going to go ahead and hit add attachment. And I'm going to pretend like I have a current event template that I can add, upload whatever from my computer. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add Patricia's Google Slides actually for it. And I now added the Google Slides into this. So now if I hit save, and yes, I want to edit this event, but I also want to edit the following events too, all of them. And let's just pretend the Google Slides presentation gives all the instructions to it. You could embed other documents as well. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. It is now edited all of those. I'm going to go back into incognito mode. I'm going to pretend like I'm a parent here. I don't have a Gmail account. And if they do, it makes things easier. But again, at the very least, they can do this. They have this link that you've given them. They type it in. They click on it. And now these events are still here. But now I'm going to click on the current event. And I'm going to see the descriptions. These current events are worth 20 points each. Remember that the first paragraph is summary and second is opinion. Now, if I click on more details, I'm going to see that there's an attachment, and the attachment says Kindergarten Virtual Classroom. Now, it doesn't look as good as if they had a Google account, because if they had a Google account, you would see the attachment in a more visual way, and I'll show you what that looks like. But at the very least, this person doesn't have a Google account. They see this. They can click on Kindergarten Virtual Classroom, and they're prompted to sign in, but that's because of the settings for that Google slide. Because I don't own it, the settings need to be changed to where everybody can view. So they would be able to see an attachment as long as your settings are appropriate. So I'm going to exit out of that for right now, though, and I'm going to go into my personal account and give it a try. All right, so I'm in my personal account. And I'm already subscribed to the third grade classroom events. I'm already subscribed as a parent. I have a Gmail account. So I see all this. Now when I click into it, notice that it's much more visual, right? I can actually see that there is an attachment. I can see that it's a Google Slides presentation, and I can click on it and it will bring it up, right? It's asking me to verify my identity. I'm not going to do it now, but you guys get the point. Everything is easier if you have a Gmail account, but if you don't, you can still send things to parents and they could still see it. So leverage the power of Google Classroom. It definitely helps. It definitely works. You can create homework calendars. You can create any type of calendars that you want and just keep adding things to it. And again, you could add events by hitting the plus sign to create or by clicking in whatever date. So let's say I wanted to create another assignment that's going to be due August 19th. I'm just going to click in that time frame. I'm going to say upload. No, I won't say upload. I'm a third grade teacher, so ELA homework 1. It's due on this time. I want it to be all day. I don't need a time. Scroll down. I want to change the default calendar from me, and I want to make it third grade classroom homework. Hit save, and now that homework assignment is right in here. And again, it automatically updates the calendar for anybody else subscribed to it. So if I go here and I refresh the page, this is the link that the parent would have. Notice now ELA homework 1 is there. So this is helpful because if a parent wanted to print this out too and you already have a month worth of assignments, they can do that right there and they could change the view even if they don't have a Gmail account. Now, what else can you do with Google Calendar? Well, if you're a teacher, and you are because you're watching this, you can create appointment slots as well. And we'll still deal with this third grade classroom. So if I go in, let's say I'm going to go to August 25th. I'm going to click in there. Now, I can create an event, right, like a homework assignment. I can tell them that I'm going to be out of office that time. I can create a task for myself or for them, or I can choose appointment slot. So I'm going to go ahead and click appointment slot, and I'm going to put a title, and I'm going to say it's going to be parent-teacher conferences, and it's going to be August 21st. Now, I actually want a time here. I don't want it to be all day. That's going to be crazy. So I'm going to say definitely not 12 a.m. I'm going to start my parent-teacher conferences, and I'm going to say I'll be available from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. Now notice it says until August 26th, so I'm going to click on that date, and I'm going to make that August 25th. So I'm essentially available for 4 hours that day. Slots with duration. What does that mean? That means how long are the time slots or the appointment slots going to be. If I click on that, you can do a single slot, which means only one person can sign up for that slot, but it would be a 4-hour slot. So I'm actually going to say slots with duration, and let's say they're going to be 20 minutes each. Now, I want this to be for my third grade classroom calendar, not for my own personal. So I'm going to click on this. I'm then going to click on third grade class homework, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now, it looks a little different, right? It's still in the same color with the dot, but it looks different because it's not an event. It's a time slot. Now, what are the appointment slots for? It's for people to actually sign up with a specific time frame to meet with you. And in this case, it would be virtual, but you could also do it for physical. You could have these slots up, and if somebody wanted to join, they can join. Now, notice when I click on it, there is this little link that says go to appointment page for this calendar. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and see what happens. This is the appointment page for me. Now, it was later on in August, so if I scrolling through, you can see now on August 25th when I get there, all of these appointment slots in 20-minute increments from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And if I click on one of those, I can book an appointment. In this case, I'd be booking an appointment with myself, so that wouldn't make sense. But it's very helpful, especially virtual, and especially with your parents or with your students as well. Because let's say I wanted to meet with some third graders and they have something due that they might need help with. and I'm teaching virtually, I can add appointment slots and my students can sign up for it. And if I see that they're signed up, I can meet with them virtually. This would be helpful at the high school or middle school level. Let's imagine it's before a test and you want to do one-on-one review sessions, or they're submitting a paper and they need help with it. I can say, okay, August 25th, there are time slots from 1 to 5. You guys go to this page. I'd give them the link and they would click on the slot that they want. Now, appointment slots are great, but unfortunately, they can only be seen by somebody with a Google account. They can only be booked by somebody with a Google account with Google Calendar. The good news about that is it is completely free to get a Google account and to get Google Calendar. And Google Calendar is also an app on the phone, so you guys can download it, parents can download it, students can download it. And they could see everything straight from their phone, and they could be able to interact with all this stuff straight there. And you guys would be able to see everything right there as well, which is helpful. It could send notifications and reminders. It could do the same thing for students. Now, it is a bit of a bummer that parents, in this case, for those elementary school teachers especially, parents would need a Gmail account in order to interact with appointment slots much better. They won't be able to see it otherwise, so you'd have to find an alternative way. Now, most people do have Gmail addresses, and most people would probably be willing to sign up and get a free one because it also helps with these other things with Google Calendar as well, like adding the calendar to see everything, interacting with it a lot easier than just the plain web-based view that I showed you before. So everything else that I showed you, parents will be able to see without a Gmail account, without a Google account, but appointment slots, not so much. Maybe they'll change that eventually. I don't know, but that's kind of where we are right now. So that's the lowdown of Google Calendar. Again, a lot of the stuff originates from settings. The creation is always by hitting the create button or clicking on any date. And again, when you click on any one of those dates, you can add an event, which includes virtual conferencing. You could add locations, descriptions, attachments. You can say that you're going to be out of the office, right? So that means nobody could even invite you to anything at that time. So how would that be helpful? Well, if we're doing virtual learning, let's say on August 27th, I know that in a specific time slot, I'm not going to be available for my students. So maybe I say out of the office and it's August 27th. And I'm going to be unavailable all day long. So I'll say from 12 a.m. until 11:30 p.m. And I'll keep it August 27th so that it's basically all day. I'm going to be out of the office. I'm going to automatically decline new and existing meetings, and I'm declining because I'm out of the office. So let's say somebody sent me a request to meet. It could be a student sending me a request to meet. It could be a boss, a colleague, whatever. I'm going to automatically decline it because I'm not available, and I can do that as well. So, and then last but not least, you can create appointment slots like I talked about, and tasks. Now, tasks is just like it sounds, right? You could kind of create your own little to-do list within Google Calendar. So let's just say that on August 6th, I want to create the task update email list. I don't know, sounds like something that people would do. Add descriptions, update now, all the people, right? Now, what's down below here is a drop-down menu for to-do lists that I already created before. So at one point it was July 31st, goals to accomplish, my list. I can, by default, it says either list or must do soon, or anything that you create, and you can go ahead and save that, and it'd be all day. Now, tasks are really just for you. Now, Google Tasks is its own program. Many of you probably encountered Google Tasks through Gmail, because on the right-hand side with this side panel, right in the bottom right, I can click on it to show the side panel. I can see Google Calendar, Google Keep, and Google Tasks. So if I click on Google Tasks, it's going to bring up this tiny little thing. And you can create your own little goals and your own little tasks and all of that. So if I click on my list, I can see my list of different tasks that I wanted to do, and notice it automatically said update email list, and I can check and mark it as complete, and then go back to my calendar. And if I refresh it, it's still it would normally be there, and it is still there, but notice it's crossed out because I did it. So you could add tasks that way too, which is helpful. And if students learn how to do this as well, it could be their little update. So let's say that one of my tasks is going to be for August 13th, and it's going to be about this third grade class. I might say task. I'm going to say send email reminder to third graders. And the description is remind them of homework due tomorrow. It's going to be all day. And if I had created a different category, I can choose the category from this drop down and then hit save, and it would be there as a task. Now notice too, on the right hand side, there's this same little panel. If you don't see it, just look at the bottom right, and there should be a little arrow to show the side panel, and it has Google Keep and Google Tasks. So you can bring it up when you're in Google Calendar. You can bring Google Tasks up when you're in Gmail. It's a helpful little tool. I don't use it too frequently, but some of you might really like it. I know that on our Google Classroom page, on the stream page, I believe Kira was playing around with tasks as well, and she did a little video on that, so be sure to check that out. Now, to close, I'm going to briefly show you Google Keep, but don't worry, it's super quick. It's basically online Post-it notes. So if I click on Google Keep, it's going to bring it up in the side panel, and I have different Post-it notes for me for when I was doing feedback for student papers. These are like common things that they were doing, and it just allowed me to copy and paste things into the feedback a lot quicker. Now, it's not a very good look in this little side panel, but you can use it. It could be like little notes, right? So I can hit the plus sign, add a note, and it could just be something like, maybe I'm thinking while I'm in my calendar, oh, shopping list, I remember I need milk and eggs and butter, right? And I'm going to go ahead and hit done, and it's going to put that note in here for me. Now, you don't see it because these are all pinned at the top, but right underneath the pinned ones, I see my shopping list, and I could click the menu button, and I could archive it, or I could open it in Keep. Google Keep is its own little program, so if you click on this like open a new tab little icon, it's going to open and actually the website keep.google.com. So again, another way that you could get there, keep.google.com. Now, this isn't that important of a program, but it is a nice little thing that you can use. I have all of these pinned, but which means that it's going to pin it to the top. But what's cool about this is you can organize your notes by categories. So on the left-hand side, I have labels, much like you would do in Gmail. Like I have an EdTech label, and I had this grading hack from somebody that I follow, one little note with the YouTube link to it because I was watching it at the time, and I said, you know what? I don't want to forget this. Let me put that up there. If I had something else to add, I can go ahead and just click on the take a note, and I can say EdTech training. The title I'm going to put is, let's just say Google Calendar Help. And it's part of the EdTech training series. And I know a guy, John Sowash, who I know from EdTech stuff. He has a great video on Google Calendar, so I'm going to just add that in there. It's already labeled in EdTech because I'm in the EdTech folder. I can add a reminder if I wanted to. I can add a collaborator if I want to. I can change the color, which I'll make it green like the other one. I can add an image if I want to. I can archive it. I can do a little bit more by changing labels. I could add a drawing, show different checkboxes. I could copy it to Google Docs. There's a lot that you can do. It's really meant for just quick little notes that you can then organize. And I'll say watch video. And when I'm done, all I need to do is exit out of it, and it's already there. if I want to go to my comments and feedback label, this is all of the common feedback that I was giving to my students from last year. During one paper, I noticed a lot of them were having the same thing. So when I was in a Google Doc, what I would do is, oh, they're missing punctuation. I would just go to Google Keep, copy this, and paste it into that. So you can make whatever labels you want. It's helpful because you can use it as an app on the phone. You can use it just as the sidebar when you're in Google Calendar or something. Could be helpful too. Let's say you're in a staff meeting. Maybe you want to change a label and create it as staff meeting. And you're now going to create notes. And maybe one of the notes is orientation. And you just take some notes on it, right? Maybe you want to add the image. Maybe you take a picture of whatever we're working on. Maybe I want to show some check boxes, and I could actually list items that I'm supposed to do. Say hello to everyone. Clean room. Gather supplies, right? I can do all that, and I can go ahead and then close it, and it's going to be in there. Now, I put this in comments and feedback by accident, but if I now see this in the other, and I'm going to go ahead and change the label by change label, and it's supposed to be in the staff meeting one. I'm going to uncheck it. You could do duplicates as well. And now if I go into the staff meeting on the left-hand side, it's now right here. So it could be super helpful if you use it well. It's a very simple tool. But Google always starts off with things like this being super simple, and then over years they make it better and better and better and better. When Google Keep was first started, it was really just, you could just take notes, and then they introduced the labels and the categorizing and the adding attachments and images and the lists, and they embedded it into other programs like Google Calendar. Because again, when you're in Google Calendar, on the right hand side you should see the Google Keep and the Google Tasks icon, because you could quickly take notes, or you can quickly add some tasks. So that is a lengthy walkthrough of Google Calendar, what it looks like, what you can do with it, how you can start thinking about implementing it in your own teaching practices. Whether you're virtual or in person, doesn't matter. You can leverage the power that it has for parent communication, for student communication, for organization, and we also discussed briefly Google Keep and Google Tasks.